When it comes to morality, I believe that there's a good area, a gray area, and an evil area. So if morality is in a spectrum, what defines evil objectively? To continue our theme of horror this Halloween, we'll be taking a look at what is evil, how one can become evil, why people are evil, and because I still believe in humanity for some reason, how we can always become better as people. Airplane. Welcome to Psypop. In this series, we'll be tackling how pop culture or something in pop culture has displayed a phenomenon where we can learn from it in the context of psychology and or mental health. If you like this series and don't want to miss out on future episodes, don't forget to show support by liking and subscribing to the channel. And don't forget to click on the bell icon to get a notification whenever we post a new video. So, what do bad or evil people have in common with each other? Well, to answer this question from the psychological perspective, social psychologist Philip Zimbardo, a name I'll be mentioning quite frequently today as he's the main proponent of what we know about good and evil in psychology. He's a really cool guy. We talked about him in the Hero episode. Look him up, he's great. He defined it as the exercise of power against people, where one must intentionally harm people psychologically, hurt people physically, destroy people or ideas mortally, and of course to commit crimes against humanity. But that last one was kind of obvious. I'm not sure why this is its own criteria, since you probably do one of the last 3 points intentionally if you commit a crime against humanity, but it's something to take note of nonetheless in the criteria. But no one is born evil, they're made, and nowhere in psychology is this more prominent than in the Lucifer Effect. By the name itself, the Lucifer Effect essentially refers to how the Christian God's favorite angel, Lucifer, fell from grace in their religion and became the devil. Similar to Lucifer, humans also have the capability to fall from grace. The Lucifer Effect was elaborated on further in a book by the same name written by Zimbardo once again. This book also asks an existential question about human nature. How is it possible for ordinary, average, and even good people to become perpetrators of evil? Well, he cited 7 social processes that start playing in tandem with each other to promote evil even more, including the dehumanization of others, the individuation of self, diffusion of personal responsibility, blind obedience to authority, uncritical conformity to group norms, passive tolerance of evil through inaction or indifference. The Lucifer Effect was analyzed in detail in 2 different experiments, both of which I'll be elaborating on further. The first being the Stanford Prison Experiment, or for short, SPE. SPE was an experiment that was initially meant to be a 2-week simulation but was promptly shut down after only 6 days due to the ethical problems that it caused. In 1971, Zimbardo attempted to investigate the psychological effects of perceived power and helplessness, and how people will readily conform to the social roles they're expected to play. These roles took the form of prison guards and prison inmates. The prison guards, when placed in their positions of authority, took the opportunity to do things that would not be socially acceptable outside of the experiment. It's because of their commitment to their role of authority that the abuse went to the lengths that it did. Some of these problems are the dehumanizing treatment of the prisoners from the guards, wherein the guards would emotionally, mentally, and physically abuse the inmates. After all, these guards weren't trained professionals, so you can't expect them to know how it actually works. They were volunteers that signed up and were chosen by the lead researchers. The lack of care and consideration from the researchers themselves didn't help the situation either. The prisoners were given the option to leave the experiment, but during the said experiment, they weren't allowed to leave no matter how much they pleaded to them. So, what does this experiment now say about evil? Well, according to Zimbardo and his colleagues, the Stanford prison experiment revealed how people will readily conform to the social roles they're expected to play, especially if the roles are as strongly stereotyped as those of the prison guards at the time. Because the environment permitted and expected the guards to act in such a hostile way, they fully fell into the evil role and took advantage of their power. To quote Zimbardo one more time, "You don't need a motive. All you really need is a situation that facilitates moving across that line of good and evil." Zimbardo argues that the person is not solely responsible for evil, it's the situation that brings the evil out of us. The second experiment was the Milgram Experiment, which is still one of the most famous studies of obedience in psychology today. It was carried out by Stanley Milgram, a psychologist from Yale University, and the experiment began shortly after the trial of World War II criminal Adolf Eichmann and focuses on the conflict between obedience to authority and personal conscience. Milgram examined the justifications of German soldiers for their atrocities in the Holocaust, to which many said that they were all only following orders. This then led to the experimenter's main question: could it be that Eichmann and his million accomplices in the Holocaust were just following orders? Or could we call them all accomplices in a large atrocity in human history? Well, to conduct his research, Milgram gathered some volunteers to participate in his experiment, along with undercover Confederates that worked with Milgram for this study. All volunteers were given the role of a teacher, while the Confederates were given the role of a student. What they essentially did was they hooked up the students to a machine that would electrocute them if they didn't answer correctly or they didn't answer at all. The more they answered incorrectly, the higher the voltage would be. It would get higher and higher and higher. The shocks were fake though, and the students would only pretend to be electrocuted, so no one was actually hurt during the study, and the actual volunteers were briefed about the experiment's actual purpose afterwards, so they weren't hurting anyone in the end. But some people think that people were being hurt in the study, and to all of those people, don't worry, no one was harmed. In psychology, we're all good people. The Stanford prison experiment was only an accident of a different time. We're all better now. There are many ethics we follow now. Thank you. God. You know, you just have to clarify sometimes. His research showed that 65% of the participants ended up reaching the strongest shock level, which, for your information, was enough to kill a person in real life if someone was actually being shocked. While the remaining percent didn't reach the strongest shock level, but did reach a pretty high level as well. It's worth noting though that Milgram conducted more than just one experiment, and he noticed that external factors would affect how much a person would follow through with the orders that they were given. For example, if a person of authority was in the same room as them, watching them in like the corner here, just put any authority figure there just to show the example editor. Yeah, thank you. Then the obedience levels would increase. On the other hand, if a more rebellious figure was in the same room with them, then the level of obedience would significantly decrease for the experiment. In conclusion to his study, Milgram wrote in his book that ordinary people simply doing their jobs and without any particular hostility on their part can become agents in a terrible, destructive process. Moreover, even when the destructive effects of their work become patently clear, and they're tasked to carry out actions incompatible with the fundamental standards of morality, relatively few people have the resources needed to resist authority. So, becoming evil can happen to the best of us, which sucks, but you know what? Just as someone can fall from grace, you can also rise up to be good. In his research for what is evil, Zimbardo also discovered what it takes to be good, and he noted two things that make someone a hero. One, that you have to act when people are passive, and two, you have to act for others, not for yourself. Number 3, you have to watch PsyPoints here episode on heroes. We also talk about Zimbardo a lot. Just putting that out there. Please. With that all said, I don't think anyone is going to be a good person all the time. Sometimes people are influenced to do bad things, and it's harder to believe in the good found in others. After that, I should know. I've been talking about why evil is a thing for about like 15 minutes now. But you know what? The world is balanced so that people can be influenced to be good too. So, even if you've done something wrong, you can always make amends and be better. And that's what we should always strive to be in life for others. To be good. Yeah. Why do I keep doing that? I want you all to be good people, basically. God. So, thank you, all of you, for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel and comment any topic you'd like for us to tackle next. I hope you all try your best to be good every day, and I hope you all have a great day.